as clean, but well. I didn't release fully on the bat hang. Interesting. Slow-mo blow.
Definitely a lifestyle for me. Climbing is like basically the only thing I do, and every decision I make would be to be able to climb more. And that's like regarding my diet and what I'm going to do in my future life.
Nice. You go right hand to that little one, or a big one. Nice, nice. Yeah, and just shuffle your feet so you don't dab. And nice, bro. Oh yeah, cruising. Nice. And you set it over the top with that one, and you go, yeah.
It's definitely a big impact on my life right now. I haven't been climbing for that long, but I really want to keep climbing for the foreseeable future, and I definitely think it'll be a big part of my life.
Is that going to be in the video?
One more.
Sound better?
Yep.
Okay.
What's your name and what do you do for work?
My name's Cameron Dowell.
My name is Morgan Karner.
My name's Greg.
My name's Paolo Campanero.
I work at Algonquin College at their climbing wall.
I'm a second-year student at Algonquin College.
I'm currently a student at Algonquin.
I'm the head coach of Altitude Gym, and I'm also a route setter here. I think climbing's for everybody. Like, no matter what you are, what size you are, what's your body type, what's your mentality, I think climbing is like for everyone. It's something that is natural for us as humans to do. We've been climbing since, evolution. Everyone has the potential to really progress themselves specifically in climbing, and no matter what your skill set is, I'm sure we can find a way to progress yourself and to make you a better climber and a better person.
It's pretty accessible to start, especially indoors, since all you really need is shoes and maybe some chalk.
Is there anything you see commonly in beginners?
In terms of like technique and whatnot, there's absolutely, your common mistakes of just not knowing the options available to you when you're on the wall and how you can use your body. And I guess your most common would be people are very used to climbing things like a ladder where you're squared up to the wall, moving one hand, 1 foot at a time. And then as soon as it turns more 3D, people start a deer in the headlights kind of scenario. So that's very common, but it's really just a matter of getting used to it, whether you're being coached or not. Like, just repetition will get you used to that kind of thing. In terms of beginners and moving, even in the outdoor climbing I've found that advanced climbers can sometimes struggle at what I would consider to be easy scrambles through rock. So I think it's also a matter of like lifestyle and how you grew up. The more outdoorsy things you did as a child seem to play off in climbing for some reason.
I see a lot of beginners not worrying about their feet at all. I think, especially with climbing, you're like, oh my God, I need all this upper body strength. But that is like usually never the case, unless you're on just a straight overhang with 0 feet, which is super rare. Generally, you can get yourself up any climb as long as you use your feet and your hips correctly.
What is a common misconception about climbing that you hear a lot?
I mean, I guess your most basic one would be you have to be strong to climb, which is not technically true. There's a lot of aspects of climbing like flexibility and just knowledge of how to move on the wall that are going to help you get up. When it comes down to climbing at the really hard levels, you do have to have a certain amount of strength, but it's one of those sports where you can just actually climb and you'll progress through climbing. You don't need to train and that kind of thing, and it will make you stronger through doing it. So it's a fun way to improve your physicality.
I got into climbing in September last year. Just when I was visiting the school, I noticed the climbing gym. It started off like I came a couple times, but then once Cam came, he started setting and I started talking to him and met people, and I just loved it ever since then.
Keep coming.
There.
up here?
Yep.
I think that climbing is definitely a lifestyle. You know, I think when I'm out doing something and I know I should be training the next day, or I have something to do the next day that's like climbing based, then I will kind of adjust my day around that to kind of suit my next day of climbing. Let's say like, you know, my friends are going out or something, I probably won't drink or something like that, just to give myself, you know, the best performance that I can have on the next day. Climbing is like evolving super fast, like a lot quicker than most other sports. I know for a fact that bouldering has become a lot of like parkour sort of stuff, but at the same time, now it's kind of straying farther away from parkour and more into like the technical aspect or the powerful aspect, which is cool because not everyone likes to jump around, but we're starting to slowly transition away from that sort of style.
Yeah, things are more compy than what they used to be, and by compy I mean like a lot more jumping and that kind of stuff. And it's not a bad thing at all, just in the past it's not what people are used to. So it's just like progression of the sport, but you still have outdoor climbing where you can be as static as possible. So I think it's just a good thing, yeah. Definitely when I'm setting at the Algonquin gym, because it's small, there's a limitation on like what we can do. But with all the climbers that we have in terms of, you know, abilities and whatnot, I would say I try to have like one thing at each level for difficulty. So if you climb at, you know, a medium range, you can have a jumpy style problem to work on, something with small fingers. In terms of flow, I mean, for me, ideally, everything feels flowy, but you can't climb the same way with everybody, just with different heights and wingspans, and everybody has their different strengths. So as much as I want things to be climbed a certain way, I've found that people will find their own flow. So when you're making hard moves and trying to connect them in a flowy state, I think sometimes it's just luck, and ideally that works out, but it's not really in my control all the time.
What got you into coaching?
I honestly don't even know. I think I just like was working at the gym for a few years, and I saw like how the team was operated, and I saw how the coaches were working and how they were pushing their athletes, and I myself like push myself really hard, and I figured I can have some value at pushing athletes as hard as I push myself. Since my first year of coaching, I've brought athletes to youth nationals. I've brought 20 athletes, well, the team, we brought 20 athletes to Calgary last year for youth nationals, and then out of that, 3 of our athletes qualified for the Youth World Championships in Seoul, South Korea. So I think that's definitely my biggest accomplishment for coaching right now. And as a setter, probably my biggest accomplishment was setting for the Jackalope Fest in Montreal this year. Such a cool experience. You know, being underneath like the dome, the Olympic Dome Stadium in Montreal, setting for World Cup climbers and stuff like that while a sick skateboarding event is going on. It was like mind-blowing. The best experience I've ever had in my life for, you know, setting and climbing wise, for sure. The mental aspect in climbing is like a huge chunk of it. If, you know, you're not psyched on it, then you're not going to perform as well as you should be. So I think having that mentality of, you know, I'm good enough to do this sort of stuff and I have the potential to do this, instead of, I don't know if I can do this, and I think this is probably going to be too hard for me, or I'm going to get shut down at this comp. Right away, you're like setting yourself up for failure. So I think having the mentality of, you know, confidence going into any event or, you know, training session is the biggest thing for sure. And if you were to be competing, let's say the next day, it would start the night before. You know, eating well, having a good rest, preparing yourself to try your best and perform at your best.
I think physical activity is really good for your mental health. So physically, I think for sure it's helped me out since I didn't really go to the gym too much, and I'd go climbing instead, which in my opinion is just as good. It helps your muscles get stronger, it helps everything. And mentally, it just, you know, keeps you busy and gives you something to kind of look forward to doing.
The benefit to Ottawa is there's a really strong gym scene, and actually I would say the climbing community is stronger than that of what I would have heard in Toronto. Even though their outdoor bouldering scene, they have more access to that kind of thing. But the commitment for the Ottawa climbers to make what we have useful and make the best of it is pretty amazing. So in terms of where I want to be long-term when I climb, Ottawa's not the place, but for progression, it's been not a bad place to start.
I don't know if it's the most exciting part, but my favorite part of bouldering might just be socializing with all the people at the climbing wall and in the gym.
So yeah, I think the best thing about climbing, especially community-based, would be just how everybody operates together and just how like the community works. If we look at like just the politics in climbing and like sport climbing and stuff like that, it is so friendly and everyone works together to help each other, which I've done like every sport in my life pretty much, and I've never seen politics for sports be the way politics are for climbing. And it's just so helpful and everybody is just with each other and pushing each other. It's something that I've never seen before, and I think that climbing is the best sport ever just because of that.
I don't think I'm at a skill level that I need to be traveling around the world to do harder climbs. Like everything here is like, there's so many climbs, even like we're going to Calbogie, there's so many that I haven't even tried yet. I've only been to half of them there. So I don't think so at the moment, but maybe into the future when I become a better climber, then yes.
France would be your mecca. It has Fontainebleau, and that's the birth ground of bouldering in a sense. And so living in France is probably not my ideal, but will I do thousands of trips to France if possible? Like absolutely, yeah. Outdoor all the way, which is interesting because in my like 6-year climbing career, I've only done a year and a half of outdoor climbing. But I would say as soon as my first day, it was like an obvious connection.
Although I've only been outdoor like 3 times outdoor, it's just better. I don't know, it's cooler. I like being outside a lot.
Currently, I prefer indoor climbing just since the holds are easier and it's more accessible to me right now.
I'm like a sucker for indoor climbing for sure. As like a route setter, I have a very good passion for like nice boulders and, you know, boulders that climb very well. And so I think that's really cool. But again, like outdoor bouldering is everyone's passion. Realistically, if you're climbing, we've all been climbing. I think as a kid, we've all climbed a tree at some point just without even thinking about it. So I think it's super natural. And if you really get into the sport, you're gonna notice how cool it is to be able to like use your body in different strengths in different ways that are just so unnatural to like everyday use other than climbing, which is super cool.